Hey guys, in this video we are going to talk about the problems of CodeDrift day 1 and the topic is graphs. So let's get started. So let us talk about the first problem. In the kingdom of friendship, there live n people. Each person is a friend with every other person. The queen wanted to know the best friend of each person. Note that best friendship is considered a unidirectional relationship here. So she conducted a survey where each person I replied AI as is her best friend. The queen was shocked to see that there were people who were not the best friend of their best friends. The queen thinks that all pairs who have each other as the best friend should be given a prize. Can you tell us how many gifts the queen will distribute? The problem constraints are n can vary from 1 to 2 into 10 raised to power 5, and each element in the array will vary from 1 to n. Now let us try to understand this problem statement with some examples. Let us talk about the first example. Let's say this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Then from here I know for 1 best friend is 3, right? For 2 best friend is 1. For 3 best friend is 2. Now here we can see we cannot create any pairs because it's a cycle, right? Best friend of 1 is 3 and best friend of 3 is 2 and best friend of 2 is 1, right? So in this case our answer will be 0. Now let us talk about the second example. Let's say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then best friend of 1 is 3, best friend of 2 is 2. So 2 doesn't have any best friend, so we can just put it aside. And then we have best friend of 3 is 1. Okay. Best friend of 4 is 5. And best friend of 5 is 4. Right. So in this case, we can see that this one and this one, these two are the pairs we are looking for. Right. So in this case, our answer will be 2. Now let us move on to see the solution to this problem. Basically, we are given an array. Right. So let's say for ith element, we know that the best friend of ith element is AI, right? Similarly, the best friend of aith element, that will be A of AI, right? Now, in order to count the pairs, I want to ensure that this I is equal to this value because I need both of them to be best friend of each other, right? So best friend of I is AI and best friend of AI is denoted by this value and this must be equal to this value. That means we can just iterate over the array from left side to the right and we can check if I equal to A of AI, right? And if this is the case, we'll add 1 to the answer. And we need to check for one more condition. If I equal to AI, that means ith person doesn't have a best friend. Okay, it's a friend of itself. So we just need to ignore this value. And in this way, we can solve this problem quite easily. Now let us talk about the code of this problem. So the code to this problem is quite straightforward. We are looping on the array from left to right. First we are checking if I is not equal to AI minus 1. Here we are using I minus 1 because we are using zero based indexing in this case. And if current index is equal to the current element at that index, then in that case we need to skip, right? That's why we are checking this. Otherwise we are just checking the specified condition here. And if that is the case, I am adding 1 to the answer. After that I am returning answer by 2. Why so? Because here we are talking about pairs, right? Let's say this is the case. This is index 1. At index 1 we have 3 and at index 3 we have 1. Then we are talking about pairs here. So while iterating when I am at 1, I'll check that these two are the pairs we are talking about. So I'll add 1 to the answer. And then when I'll move on to the next index, I'll again see that this is valid. Then I'll add it again to the answer. So in this fashion, we'll see that we are adding to the answer twice. So that's why we have to divide it by 2. Now let us move on to the second question. The second problem is shortest and shortest. So the problem description states that you are given the map of a city having A houses in form of an undirected graph B, where BI denotes a road between house BI0 and BI1, having length BI2. For a given pair of houses C and D, you have to tell the shortest road that can exist in a shortest path between them. Note, it is guaranteed that there always exists a path between C and D, that is, they are always connected. The problem constraints are A can vary from 2 to 10 raised to power 5, length of B can vary from 1 to 10 raised to power 6, and the index of houses vary from 1 to n, and the paths can vary from 1 to 10 raised to power 9, and C is not equal to D. Now let us try to understand this problem with some examples. Now let us talk about this example. We are given A as 7, that means we have 7 houses, and then we are given the information about edges and their weights, and we are given C as 1 and D as 3. So first, let's start off with building the graph. The first edge is between 1 and 2 with weight 2. So 1 is connected to 2 with weight 2. Then 2 and 3 with weight 8. So we'll have 8 here. Then 1 and 7, weight is 3. Then 7 and 4, weight is 2. And then 4 and 3, weight is 5. Then 1 and 5, okay, 1 and 5, weight is 3. Then 5 and 3, weight is 7. Then 1 and 6, so 1 and 6, weight is 1. So these are all the edges and their respective weights. Now C is 1. That means the first house that we are talking about is 1. And the second house D is 3. Okay. If we try to calculate the shortest distance between them, we can see that it is 10. Right. And there are a couple of routes that we can take to get the shortest distance. Like we can go from 1 to 2 and then from 2 to 3. Okay. So this will result in 10. Similarly from 1 to 5 and 5 to 3. It again results in 10. And similarly from 1 to 7, 7 to 4 and 4 to 3. It again results in 10. So we have 3 different routes here. So in this case I need to tell the shortest edge that I can have. So I can clearly see that the shortest edge that I can have in our path is of length 2. Either we can take this edge or we can take this edge. So for this example our answer is 2. Now let us move on to see the solution to this problem. Now I am using the same graph from the example. In order to solve this problem properly, we need to tell the shortest edge, right? So first off, we are going to calculate two distances here. First one is D1, the second one is D3. Here D1 will denote the shortest distance from node 1 to any node. Similarly, D3 will denote the shortest distance from node 3 to any node. So basically we need to run Dijkstra first from 1, then from 3. Okay, after that I'll get some values. So let's try to write down all of those values here. Now the shortest distance from node 1 to node 1 is 0, right? Now shortest distance from node 1 to node 2 is 2. Shortest distance from node 1 to node 3 is 10. Similarly, for node 4 it is 5, for node 5 it is 3, for node 6 it is 1, for node 7 it is 3, right? In this fashion we can also fill D3. So now I'm going to fill D3 as well. So basically in order to get this information we can use Dijkstra's algorithm to get the shortest path from node 1 and node 3. Now that we have this information, let's try to solve the problem. So what we'll do, okay, basically I'll iterate on the edges, and the first thing that I'll check for every edge, let's say I'm currently at this edge, then first thing that I'm going to check is whether this edge lies between the path of 1 and 3. And if it lies between the path, from path I mean the shortest path, if it lies between the shortest path between 1 and 3, then only I'll try to minimize my answer with the weight of this edge. Okay, so in that way I'm going to move on. Now the problem is, how can we check whether current edge lies between the shortest path of 1 and 3 or not? So the answer is quite simple. The first thing that we know is the shortest path between 1 and 3 is 10, right? The length is 10. We can confirm this from here or here, right? From 1 to 3 or from 3 to 1. Now that we know the shortest path, let's say I'm currently talking about this edge. Okay, so in order to check whether this edge lies between the shortest path of 1 and 3, I'll write these conditions here. It should be weight of this edge, let's say that is W, plus D1 of 4, that is the distance of node 1 to node 4, plus the D3 of 7, that is the distance from node 3 to node 7. It should be equal to 10, right? Either this should be the case, or there is one more case here, that is weight of the edge plus distance from 1 to 7, that is D1 7, plus distance of 3 to 4, that is D3 4, it should be equal to 10. If I satisfy any of these conditions, that means our current edge is a valid edge. Okay, so in that case I'll minimize my answer with 2. So that's how I'm going to check. So what I'm doing here, I'm just assuming that this node is connected to 3 and this node is connected to 1, and then this edge is acting as the bridge, right? Similarly, for second case, I am assuming that this node is connected to 7 and this node is connected to 4, and this edge is acting as a bridge. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna calculate my answer. So eventually after minimizing I'll get my answer. So that's how we can solve this problem quite easily. Now let us move on to see the pseudocode of this problem. Now let us see the code to this problem. So this is the main solve function. We are given all the parameters right here. So the first thing that we are doing here is we are creating the adjacency list. And the adjacency list stores the neighbors and the corresponding weights. Okay, after that I am running Dijkstra's algorithm. This above code, this is basically the template of Dijkstra's algorithm. So I am running Dijkstra's algorithm from node C, and I am getting all the distances from node C inside this DC vector. Similarly, I am getting all the distances from node D inside this DD vector. And our shortest path variable, it consists of the shortest path from C to D. Right. Currently, I am assuming that my answer is something really big, which is not in the bounds of weights. Then I am iterating over all the edges. Okay. So I am checking here two conditions. So the first condition is, as we have already talked about this, let's say this is C node, this is D node. Then let's say I am currently at some edge here. This is X, this is Y. Then the condition first we are checking is distance from C to X and distance from D to Y plus this weight, right? And similarly, we are doing it again, distance from C to Y and distance from D to X plus weight. Okay, so these are the two conditions that we are checking. If any one of these conditions is correct, then I am minimizing my answer with the weight of current edge, or that is W, right? So that's what I'm doing here. After that, I'll get the minimum answer in my answer variable and I can return that here. So that's how we can solve this problem quite easily. I hope you enjoyed the content of this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Hey guys, in this video we are going to talk about the problems of CodeRiff Day 2 and the topic is graphs. So let's get started. So let us talk about the first problem. You are given an undirected graph having A nodes and B edges. Ith edge connecting nodes Bi0 and Bi1. The strength of a connected component is defined as the number of edges existing in that component. Given an integer C, you have to tell the maximum strength that a connected component in the given graph can have, if we are allowed to add exactly C edges to the graph. The problem constraints are A can vary from 1 to 10 raised to power 5, length of B can vary from 1 to 2 into 10 raised to power 5, Bi0 and Bi1 can vary from 1 to A, and C can vary from 0 to 10 raised to power 9. Now let us try to understand this problem with some examples. Now let us look at this example. We are given A as 7, that means we have 7 nodes, and we are given a list of edges. So let's try to create a graph out of these. 1 is connected to 2, 2 is connected to 3, 3 is connected to 1, 4 is connected to 5, 5 is connected to 6, 6 is connected to 4. And since we have 7 nodes and we have just used 6 nodes, so we can have one more node here. So if we count the connected components, we have 1, 2, 3 connected components here, right? And we are given C as 1. So we need to add one more edge to this graph and we need to maximize the total number of edges in any one component. Okay, so the best thing that we can do here is we can connect this component with this component because both of them consist of 3 edges already. So if I try to connect these two components, my answer will be 7. Why? Because these 3 edges and this new edge. So total number of edges here is 7. So this is the maximum we can do with C equal to 1. So that's how we can solve this example. Now let's see the solution to this problem. Now let us talk about the solution to this problem. Let's say we are given some connected components. This is first component, this is second component, this is third component, this is fourth component, and this is fifth component, right? So the first thing that we need to notice here is one edge can connect two components, right? We can connect at max two components from one edge. We can either have one edge inside the component that will just add 1 to the answer, but if I choose to connect two components, then I am going to maximize my answer in that way, right? Because I will also add all these edges and all these edges to our answer. So one edge can make a lot of change if we have different components, right? Now the second thing here is, if I have to connect one edge, which is the component that I am going to choose? So that is quite obvious again, because we'll choose the component with the maximum size, because we need to obviously maximize the answer. So we'll choose the component with maximum size first. So a strategy will be greedy here. So I'll start with the component with maximum size and I'll move on by connecting it with the component which has second maximum size. And then from there, I'll move on to the third best. And from there, I'll move on to the fourth best. And then after that, I'll move on to the fifth best, right? And I'll move in this manner. Okay, so first I'll add this edge, and then if C is still greater than 0, then I'll add this edge, and again if C is still greater than 0, then I'll add this edge, and then if C is still greater than 0, then I'll add this edge. Okay, after that, if still C is greater than 0, we can add the edges inside the graph. Okay, so that won't affect the graph, it will just add one more edge to the component, right? So it will add one more strength to the component. So basically our strategy will be, first we'll count the size of all the connected components Then after that, we'll sort them in decreasing order. Now let's say we have x components. Then the number of edges that are needed to connect x components are x minus 1. Okay. So if our c is greater than x minus 1, we'll connect all the components, and then after that I'll just add the remaining edges to the graph. Okay. And if our c it is less than x minus 1, then in that case I'll just choose the best c plus 1 components. Okay, because c edges can give me c plus 1 components. So I'll choose the best c plus 1 components and I'll just add them into a single component. So that's how we can proceed to get the solution to this problem. Now let us move on to see the code of this problem. Now let us talk about the code of this problem. So basically we are given a the number of nodes and all the edges and the additional edges that we can add, right? The first thing that we are doing is we are converting it into an adjacency list. After that, we are iterating from 0 to a. Why? Because in order to get the connected components, we iterate on each and every node, and if it's not visited, we do a DFS, and in that DFS, I'll get a component. Okay, so if it's not visited, I'll get the component here using the DFS. After that, after getting this component, what I'm doing, I'm just calculating the size of this component. So in our context, the size of the component is actually the strength of the component, or basically the number of edges in that component, right? So in an undirected graph, the number of edges is actually equal to total number of degrees of each and every node divided by 2. So I am here adding all the degrees of each and every node which belong to this component, then I am dividing it by 2, right? So in this manner, I am pushing all the sizes or all the strengths of components inside a vector named COMPS, right? Comps. After that, I'm sorting it in descending order. Remember, it is R begin and R end. So that's why it is getting sorted in descending order. After that, I'm checking if components dot size minus 1 is less than C. In that case, I can connect each and every component, right? So basically, I'll have a totally connected graph, and in that I am adding edges. Okay. So in that case, I'll return the total number of edges I already have in the graph plus C. Why so? Because at the end, all of the connected components would have been connected by these C edges, right? So that's why we can return b dot size plus C. Otherwise, if it is not the case, then we need to select the best C plus 1 components. So I'm just iterating from left to right, and since we have already sorted the vector in descending order, so we can just basically iterate from left to right and add the strength of each and every component to the answer. After that, I am adding C to the answer, because eventually we are going to add these C edges to the components which we are targeting right now. Okay, these C plus 1 components. After that, we are returning the answer. So basically, here we have this DFS function. It's the standard function which we are using to find the connected components. So that's how this code is working. Now let us move on to see the second problem. Now let us talk about the second problem. And the second problem is jackpot queries. The problem description is, you are visiting a fair in Byteland. You are shopping and want to buy Q items. Each item can cost exactly BI amount of money. You have no money, but you have a magical bag on which you can apply an operation any number of times you want. In a bag, there are n integers denoted by array A. In one operation, you can choose two integers xy from A and deposit all of the amount of money M you have. This will magically increase your money by x or y. It basically means that, let's say you have some array A and it has some elements, and you chose some elements x and y. Then let's say you have current amount of money as M. Then after doing this operation, you'll have M plus x or y of money. So that's what it's trying to convey. Note, you have to deposit all money you have, otherwise you will be exiled from Byteland for your grid. Also, shopkeepers have no change, so you have to pay exact amount. Treating each item as independent and starting with zero amount of money, can you find if we can buy each item? So basically, for each and every item, we are starting from scratch, right? For each and every item, we will assume that we have zero amount of money, and then we'll do these kind of operations, choose two elements, do their XOR, and add their XOR to our current amount. And in that manner, we want to tell whether we can buy the current element or not. Okay, so we have to do it for some number of elements. After that, we are given problem constraints. N can vary from 2 to 1000. Each element of array A can vary from 1 to 10,000. Q can vary from 1 to 10 raised to power 5. And each element of array B can vary from 0 to 10 raised to power 9. Now let us move on to see some examples. Now let us talk about first example. We are given array A as 1, 2, and we are given array B 3, 5, 10, 15. So we need to buy item of cost 3, item of cost 5, item of cost 10, and item of cost 15. Right? Let's try to buy this item. Okay, so initially we have zero amount of money, and we can choose any pair of XOR between these two elements, right? Now the only pair of XOR that can increment our amount is 1 comma 2, and XOR of 1 comma 2 is 3, right? So if I add 3 to our current amount, then 0 plus 3 is 3. So yes, we can buy this item, right? Now let us talk about this item. So again, we have 0 amount of money. We choose these two as our pair, and again I'll add 3. Now again I'll choose these two as my pair because I don't have any other choice, right? So I'll add 3. So I'll see that I got 6 here, but I need to create 5. So it is clear that I cannot make 5 here. So we cannot create 5 out of 3, 3, 3, 3. So you can clearly see here that at each step we can only add 3, right? Since we can only add 3 to our amount, each and every multiple of 3 can be made. 3, 6, 9, 12. So we cannot create 10 because it is not a multiple of 3, and we can create 15 because it is a multiple of 3. So for 3 we'll have 1, for 5 we'll have 0, for 10 we'll have 0, for 15 we'll have 1. So we need to return 1001, right? Now let us talk about the second example. In second example, we are given 1, 2 and 3. So the pairs that can actually increase our amount is 1 comma 2, 1 comma 3 and 2 comma 3, right? XOR of 1 comma 2 is again 3, XOR of 1 comma 3, XOR of 1 comma 3 is 2, XOR of 2 comma 3 is 1, right? Now I know that I can make these three values. Now I need to ask, can I create 1 starting from 0? So yes, we can just add this value to our current 0 and we'll get 1. So we can make it. Now let us talk about 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. So we can make this one as well. Now let us talk about 10. 3 plus 2 and again 3 plus 2 will give us 10. So we can create all three of them. So in this case, our answer will be 111. So we need to return a string 111. Okay. So that's how we need to solve this problem. Now let us move on to see the solution to this problem. Now let us talk about the solution to this problem. One thing that I want you to notice is, after doing the XOR of all kind of pairs we have these three values, right? And we need to create these three values starting from 0. So basically here we can redefine the problem as, we are given coins of denomination 3, 2, 1, and we want to know, can I make 1, 5 and 10 out of it? So it's basically a coin change problem, right? But in our case, as we know, n is 1000. So the number of pairs that we can have here is, that will be 1000 into 1000 minus 1 divided by 2. And that is pretty big, right? So we cannot use coin change here. So here we need to find some other strategy. So let us talk about that strategy now. Let's say we are given some general array and it has elements a1, a2 up to an, right? So the first thing that I want you to do is calculate each and every type of coin you can have. So what we can do, we can just run two for loops and we'll calculate a1 XOR a2, a1 XOR a3, and in this fashion each and every single pair that we can create. And let's say those values are denoted by c1, c2 up to cn. So we have an array C which consists of some coins, right? Now the problem is, we are given some coins and we need to create some value, and we need to tell if whether we can create that value or not, right? Now let's say this is our cost array and we have n elements in our cost array, and let us assume that this array is already sorted. So the first element of this array should be the minimum element in this array. Now given any element x, we cannot create it if x is less than c1, right? Because c1 is the minimum amount of denomination that we can use. After that, all of the values which are divisible by c1, we can easily create them using just the coin of denomination c1. Now we'll have some values that we cannot create. Now those values are the values which will give modulo c1 some value which is in range 1 to c1 minus 1, or in other words, it is not divisible by c1, right? So from these values, I want to know, can I create these values as well? Okay, we can always create them, we cannot create these kind of values. Now the only question is, can I create these kind of values using these denominations, right? So the question here is, can I make x mod c1 equal to 1? Can I make x mod c1 equal to 2? Can I make x mod c1 equal to c1 minus 1? So out of all these values, I want to know how many values can I create using these coins, and I need to use the minimum amount of coins. And why so? I'm going to talk about that later in this video. So here we can create a graph of c1 nodes. All the nodes are numbered from 0 to c1 minus 1. Now what will be the edges in this graph? So for each and every node, let's talk about ith node right now. For ith node, we'll iterate on this array C for E in C So inside this, I'll create an edge from I to I plus E mod C1. And since we are doing modulo C1, will end up again in some node which will lie in 0 to C1 minus 1. And this edge tells us that if we have value I and we want to go here, we need to use this coin of denomination E, right? So we can set the weight here as E. Okay, so that's how we can create the graph, and in that graph we can run Dijkstra's algorithm. Now let us see how actually the graph thing is working here. So this is our cost array. Remember, it is not the array given to us, okay? It is the array which is coming after processing our array A. This is the array which consists of all the costs, right? So let's try to build a graph over it. So first off, we need the minimum element, that is 4 here. So we need to create a graph of nodes 0 to 3, right? 0 to 4 minus 1. So we'll have 4 nodes here, 0, 1, 2, and it is 3, right? So these are the values that I want to create. Now let us try to create edges from this node. That will be 0 plus 4 modulo 4 and 0 plus 13 modulo 4 and 0 plus 11 modulo 4, right? Since 0 plus 4 modulo 4 or any value x plus 4 modulo 4 will be x, it will be a self edge, right? So that's why we won't include this node. Okay, so we won't include 4 while calculating this. So I'm just gonna remove this first value here. Now let us talk about these two values. So 0 plus 13 mod 4, it is 1. So I'll have an edge from 0 to 1 with weight 13, right? Similarly, 0 plus 11 mod 4, it is 3. So I'll have an edge from 0 to 3 with weight 11, right? Now let us talk about this node. From 1, we'll have 1 plus 13 modulo 4 and 1 plus 11 modulo 4. So 1 plus 13 modulo 4 is 2. So I'll have an edge from 1 to 2 with a weight of 13. Similarly, 1 plus 11, it will be 12. Modulo 4, it is 0. So I'll have an edge from 1 to 0 with weight 11, right? So these are all the edges that I can create here. Okay, now let's run Dijkstra's algorithm on it. After running the Dijkstra's algorithm, the thing that we'll know is, in order to create x modulo 4 equal to 2, how much amount of value that I need. So if I try to run Dijkstra's here, I'll get 11 and 11. I'll need a minimum of 22 coins in order to create x modulo 4 equal to 2. Let us say we are given 6 and 6 modulo 4 is 2, right? And in this graph we can clearly see that we can reach to 2. But for reaching there, we need at least a minimum of 22 coins, right? And we need to create 6, okay? So 6 is obviously less than 22. So that's why we cannot create 6 here, okay? And now let us talk about something big. Let's say I have 82, okay? Now 82 modulo 4 is 2 again. But here we can see that we can create 22, right? So what will happen here? I'll subtract 22 from 82 and it will give me 60. And for 60, we can clearly see that 60 is divisible by 4, right? So we know that using some denominations we can get till 22 coins, and after that any value that gives us modulo 4 equal to 2, we can create it, okay? So 82 minus 22, it will just remove that modulo 2 part from our value. After that, whatever we'll get, that will be a multiple of our minimum denomination coin, and we can just use that coin there, okay? So that's how we can solve this problem. Now for this array B, let's try to calculate the answer. So we have 9 here. 9 modulo 4, it gives us 1. So we need to see what is the distance of 1 from 0. So if I try to run Dijkstra here, the minimum distance that I'll get from 0 to 1 is 13. So I need a minimum of 13 coins to reach there, right? But here we have 9. And since 9 is smaller than 13, that tells us that we cannot reach 9 using these values. Okay, so that's why the answer for 9 will be 0. Now let us talk about the second element, that is 7. 7 modulo 4, it will give me 3. Now can I reach 3 here? So if I try to run Dijkstra, I'll get 11. Okay, again 11 is greater than 7, so we cannot reach 7 as well. Now let us talk about 33. For 33, if I do modulo 4, I'll get 1 here. And as we know, the cost to reach 1 from 0 is 13. So 33 minus 13, that will give me 20, right? And we can create 25 easily. So basically we just need to tell if distance of, let's say this is x x modulo 4 is less than equal to x. Okay, so if this distance is less than equal to our current element, then we can reach that current element. In this case, we can easily reach 33. Okay, now let us talk about 21. So 21 mod 4 will again be equal to 1. Now I can see that I can reach 1 using 13 values. So 21 minus 13, it will give me 8, and I can create 8 using just my first coin. Okay, so I can also create our last value. So these are 1 1. So the answer for our current problem will be 0 0 1 1, right? So that's how we can proceed to solve this problem. Now let us look at the pseudocode to this problem. So let us quickly see this pseudocode. We are going to start from the solution function. First we are given the input as array A and array B. Then we are trying to calculate each and every XOR we can have, and we are storing it in an array named present. Why we are doing so? We are actually trying to generate all the coins here. Okay, so the coins can be generated after getting the XOR of each and every element in the array, right? After that, we are pushing all the values in the vals array which are present in our present array. Okay, so now our vals array, it consists of all those coins. Okay, these coins. Now that we have coins, we need to generate the graph, right? So we are assigning the minimum value to m, and then we are generating the graph. Now let us look at the generate graph function. So at generate graph, as we have discussed, from ith node will go to I plus j mod m with a weight of j, right? So that's what we are trying to do in our graph, right? So first we are clearing the graph. After that, for each node from 0 to m, as we have already discussed that we have nodes from 0 to m minus 1, so we are doing the same here as well. Then for each node, we are just creating the edge from I to I plus v mod m with a weight of v, right? So that's how we generated our graph. After that, it's quite straightforward. We are just basically running the Dijkstra's algorithm. Then we are creating a string to store our answer, and we are checking if distance of x mod m is less than equal to x, then we are pushing 1 to the answer, otherwise we are pushing 0 to the answer, and then we are returning our answer. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed the content, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.